Hello, one and all, and welcome back, back to the Great Unknown Audio Show with me, your illustrious host, and most appropriate face for radio, Maxim Jennings. And yes, we are back on the road again. We have left the sweet serenity of the quiet life and house living, and we are back on the road again. The tent is back out, equipped and ready to go as we venture north of Western Australia on an expedition of a lifetime once again. Today we find ourselves residing in the campsite located behind a tavern, the first tavern campsite I visited, and it might well be the last, considering I'm the only one here. I also forgot to replace the tent pegs, the ones that go in the little corners. So I'm without them, which isn't great, but it no matter because we are on dirt tonight, so that's going to leave a lovely stain on the bottom of my tent, making it another piece of absolute beauty that I seem to have acquired on my travels. But nonetheless, we had a lovely night in Perth after Izzy and I spoke to you last. Izzy went to go see a friend of her mum's when her mum went travelling, so that was lovely for her. So she had some catching up to do, and then we met up for dinner with two of our friends from back home, one of Izzy's old housemates. So that was absolutely lovely. Went to an Italian place. I had kangaroo bolognese, first time trying kangaroo for the first time. I have to say, I think it probably is better in fillet form as opposed to minced up. There was very little difference I could taste between that and beef. Nonetheless, a very enjoyable experience, a BYOB, so bring your own booze. We had 2 bottles of wine and then went to a lovely underground bar afterwards where we saw a man dressed with a top hat and a really iconic black long leather jacket, almost as if he was in the back in the Gothic periods, maybe helping Sherlock Holmes find James Moriarty. But it had a lovely little feel to it. I wasn't too sure whether it was trying to be American or whether it was trying to be kind of underground grungy, but it was called Varnish, sorry, not Vinyl. But it was a very, very cool little spot, very hip little spot for a Wednesday night drinky poos. So not too bad. I then woke up in a lovely Airbnb. Well, I say Airbnb. It was a room of a woman's house, but it was perfectly good. A nice big double bed, pretty much the same price as what I'd be paying in a hostel, but had lovely amenities, some good Wi-Fi, which is always important because since I think you might have seen the mad flurry of episodes that have come out in quite quick succession. Well, that's me editing them and bombing them out straight away because people are getting starved of the Great Unknown content. TGU is here to please all, so I had to get them out. But yeah, a really nice stay in one of the suburbs north of Perth, and I have to kind of finish telling you about my night, which happened with an Uber drive home, and I managed to meet one of the most interesting drivers I've ever met, a larger fella from New Zealand, the neighbouring country of Australia, of course, and we started talking. He was asking me a few different things, and then we got on to the topic of rugby, which I think he brought up, but I'm not quite entirely sure, and I told him that I am a Welsh rugby fan. And he tutted and sighed, and me knowing a bit about rugby, knowing that Warren Gatland, the head coach of Wales, is from New Zealand, I could kind of gauge where he was coming from because you can't hate the Welsh if you have any reason to. It's completely invalid. So I had to think that could be the only thing. And he said, "Yeah, I went to school with Gets," and I'm like, "Okay." He's Gats in it. He's given him the nickname, so I'm like, oh, this could be a story here. I'm like, oh, all right, yeah. Hamilton Boys School, best school in New Zealand, biggest rugby school. We won the world champs like 3-4 times. I don't know whether that was New Zealand or Australian, but it was something in the middle of that, and I'm going along with it, and I'm looking at the school, and it's like, yeah, it makes sense. I'm looking at his name. Yeah, he seems around the same age as Warren Gatland. He was a few years younger, and he went through almost his whole school history about how boys are built up to go to these big rugby schools, and he was one of the youngest, so he had to almost earn his place by being a fighter and a warrior and not giving a fuck, as he said. And he sometimes had to scrap or fight some of the bigger boys in the team who were a bit older. He said Gats was in his final year when he was playing with him, and sometimes showed him a bit of disrespect, so he had to show him who's boss, and they got in a few tussles over that year. He was telling me, Paul, his name was, Big Paul. But yeah, fascinating stuff. It's I've had a few interesting taxi drives over the course of my life, and sometimes I always think that they are almost embellishing on their stories a bit. But I have to say, this guy was very believable. I mean, it's pretty cool to play rugby with one of the best rugby coaches of the last 10-15 years, a Lions head coach. So he definitely had a backstory. I think this kind of sporting exercise had left him in his latter years, as he was on the larger side, but a great story nonetheless, a great Uber drive, and he said goodbye to me by calling me buddy, and I thought that was quite nice, so I returned the favour and then instantly started cringing at myself, because I don't think I warranted the mutual respect to call that man buddy, as he was far more my superior. Yeah, but a great evening, like I said, on a number of occasions, as I tend to do. Woke up the next morning, left for about 10ish to go meet Izzy for one last hoorah breakfast and say our final goodbyes, as we're not entirely sure when we might see each other again, which is a strange thing to say with friends, but who knows where her plans will leave her, whether she'll stay in Australia for an extended period of time or come back home. So we will see, but a great opportunity to kind of break up the long drives that have been very evident and prominent in my Western Australian road trip so far. So a few days in the same location, kind of exploring around the surrounding towns, was very nice and very much needed. But we are back on the road again. So we are about 40 kilometres away from a place called Geraldton. Yeah, so I was driving along vast roads of complete kind of nothingness, but then came across some almost mountain dune styles that had very kind of flat tops to them. And over the top of that was the sun, and the sun was giving off some lovely colours in the clouds of warm yellows for quite an extended period of time before is my tent still there? It is still there. Okay, that's good, because there's a bit of a breeze out here, and like I said, I don't have the pegs, so I've put a bit of weight in the tent as I'm in the car, keeping warm. I should say keeping warm, because it's going to get bloody hot as I move further north, but it's a good 20 degrees at the moment. But yeah, like I was saying, vast mountain tops, which were incredibly flat, and then kind of in between that you could see the sun going down as I'm kind of driving parallel to it. So it was very nice and very enjoyable, and of course I had to step out and take a photo, weather gauge, and also fly gauge, see how many flies are in the area. I think we're going to be all right. There's a few have been buzzing around, but none as many as I'm expecting to see and hear the further north I go, as I've been advised by my two friends who just completed this similar trip in a camper van. They said, get yourself a fly net, and I tried to get one from Kmart today, and they didn't sell any, so bit of a shame, but we're going to have to stop off and find one, because I'm not going for 12 days having hundreds and hundreds of flies running wild on me. No siree. So that will have to be a must. It's a must-do purchase. A must purchase, should I say. I can't really go into great detail about the itinerary for the upcoming 10 days, as my organisational skills have abandoned me once again. And I've got a campsite set up for the following 2 days at Kolibri National Park. Seems like a pretty nice establishment, so it would be nice to stay at the same place for more than 1 day and actually try and look around there for a bit. Hopefully you'll have some decent facilities, a shower. God please, I'm begging you, a shower would be lovely, as this place has no amenities that I'm at the moment. Valley Tavern, well, it does obviously have the obvious amenity of copious amounts of alcohol. So, I can't really get into great detail about that. A pretty long drive today, spent the whole afternoon in the car. T-Cross has not let me down yet. We are ramping up the miles, folks. I think by the end we could be up to 5,000 kilometres over the course of 3 weeks, which I think is pretty darn impressive. And the oil companies of Australia have me to thank for keeping them in business. I did another grocery shop whilst just after I saw Izzy and said goodbye. So I got some of the classics. They're back in. Carrots, broccoli, tomatoes, cucumbers, and plenty of mushrooms with some fruits. And I've added the almost sweet treat of cereal bars. So hopefully that bit of variety should keep me going for a bit. I have got some leftover spaghetti and tinned tomatoes. And obviously we can't forget the tins of tuna and sardines. They are the biggest bargain in the world. I'm sorry for those fish lovers out there who think that fishing these things in excessive amounts is bad, but it does keep it cheap for explorers and travellers like myself. So I'm sorry, but not sorry. So we have to decide what we're going to have for dinner. I think you know the two staples that will be on the menu, but we need to decide our vegetable of choice alongside some brown bread. Staying healthy with the fibre first brown bread. But other than that, I think that's going to end my night here. I've got a number of different things downloaded for the next 2 weeks if I get in real trouble, on all different streaming platforms, which is fantastic to have a bit of variety. I was pretty film heavy on my first week, so we're mixing up with a few series that have some that came out 15 years ago, some that have just come out. So yeah, good to get a bit of a switch up and keep my media mind intact across all different platforms. But for now, folks, I hope you've enjoyed listening to another episode of the Great Unknown Audio Show. Thank you very much, and you'll hear from me in the next one. Goodbye.